What's up, guys? It's time for tennis. Thanks for tuning into another video. So this is going to be kind of, I don't know, borderline offensive or certainly triggering for quite a few people, maybe even you. And I understand, but let me tell you what I'm going to do. So I'm going to cut the crosses out and I'm basically going to restring this racket. I'm going to keep the mains that are already in here. I'm going to cut the crosses out and I'm going to replace them with something else. Why would I do this? Well, one reason is certainly laziness. But I've done this before and it's fine. I think that this is one of those things that you have to do the right way. And it's not something that you should or necessarily would recommend doing, but it's like, well, if you really know what you're doing, it's going to be fine. I'll tell you how I would recommend going about such a thing like this, but it's certainly not the kind of thing you would find much advice on, because most of the advice you're going to get is like, don't do that. It's a terrible idea. You're going to break your racket. And I'm here to tell you, well, if you follow these instructions, you probably won't. But these instructions are somewhat limited to the equipment that you have, and it's certainly somewhat limited to the skill and comfort level that you have. But really, the only time that you're saving is restringing the mains. I guess there's other reasons you might want to do this, but I'm partly doing this, one, because I do feel a little bit lazy and I don't want to restring this entire string bed. But the reason I'm really doing this is because, well, it's kind of an interesting content video, right? So that's one reason, but I've done this before and it went fine and I'm doing it again now. It's been a while, but I really, I find that this string bed to be, well, pretty harsh. And I was hitting the other day and I just felt like a pain in my wrist and I thought, you know, maybe it's the strings. And I watched this video by Mark. He's another YouTuber and he does some tennis content. He did a review on these strings and he said that they're pretty harsh. I think his words were ouch when he was talking about the serves or something. So maybe these strings are really harsh. I never get wrist issues, but that time I did, and it might have just been like something else going on. I'm not totally sure, but it's in my head now that it might be the strings. And I switched over to my other racket that has the Kirschbaum strings in it, which I did a review on, and I found that to be more comfortable, or at least I trusted it to be, and I was able to kind of ease into my tennis again, hit relatively normally without much or any pain. And it felt like a close call. Anytime you have pretty concerning wrist pain, I definitely wouldn't take it lightly. So back to this racket surgery. I'm going to cut out the crosses and I'm going to keep the mains. Now, the reason that a job like this is risky is because when you cut out the crosses, you're left with all the tension from the mains. So if this racket was not clamped into the stringing machine like it is right now and I cut out all the crosses, what do you think is going to happen? Well, I'll tell you what's going to happen. There's going to be a lot of force around the 6 and the 12, right? Like the bottom and the top end of the head of the racket are going to be under a lot of compressive stress, and it's going to want to squeeze the racket like this, and the outer sides, like the 3 and the 9, are going to want to expand like that. So it's going to kind of make your racket head a little more circular. I've done a string job once or twice before in my life with, and I forgot to like tighten the clamps down at the 6 and 12, and the racket didn't break, thank goodness, but when I was done stringing the job, I was like, wow, the racket's like a circle, what the heck? And I realized what I did, and just a really close call, and I'm sure that I caused some damage to the racket, but a lot of stuff on the forum said, oh, it's fine, the racket goes under a lot of stress anyway, but yeah, definitely make sure everything's tight before you start your string job, and that's especially true if you're doing this. So what you're going to do is you're going to clamp the racket down, and if you have a 6-point machine, great, but really important, it's key that you have a stringing machine, I think, where you can clamp this down, right? Like the 6 and the 12, they sort of swivel in and out, and then you clamp it down once the racket's here. But it's really nice if you have a secondary adjustment so that after clamping the racket down, you can tighten or loosen independently at the 6 and 12. So that is going to be what I rely on a little bit here. I'm going to clamp the racket down, and then I'm going to apply quite a bit of extra force at the 6 and 12 to sort of counteract all the tension that's going to come from the mains once the crosses aren't there to even out the tension. So really helpful if you have a decent stringing machine like I do, but I have done this before on a 2-point drop weight machine that wasn't necessarily nice. It was very entry level. And basically what I did was I clamped it up and I just pulled as hard as I could, really, at the 6 and 12 before clamping it down with the Allen key like you have to on that one. And I just sort of trusted that to do the job. I've even gone as far with the 2-point drop weight machines to get a spreader. So a spreader is basically like a clamp. So a clamp will squeeze this way, but some clamps have an adjustment so that they'll keep squeezing this way, and then after they pass this point, they actually start spreading. And it's not like the clamp just passes all the way through itself, but that was more so just to be an animative demonstration of what a spreader is. So a spreader is basically a clamp, but it goes in the opposite directions. Instead of squeezing, it ends up like pushing apart. So what I did is I put the spreader at these 2 points of a different stringing machine, and I put my racket in the clamps, and then I squeeze the spreader a little bit to, like, you know, eke it out just a little bit more, but also to give it some extra support. And yeah, that's another way that I've done this job. So that's another little tip if you want. I don't know exactly where to tell you where to get a spreader, but I think if you're determined and crazy enough, you'll figure it out. But you could try Lowe's or your local homeware, hardware department store, etc. Home improvement, that's what I wanted to say. So yeah, I'm gonna get into this string job, and I'll try to film a little bit, but I'm just working with the tripod today. And I mean, at the end of the day, I've basically explained what you're gonna do, and I'm just gonna cut out the crosses, pull them out, and then I'm gonna put some different crosses in, and I will show you guys that string bed afterwards. So I'm gonna put some Ytex Quadro Twist in here. I think it's a super comfortable poly string, and I love it in the crosses. I love it in a full bed, but I'm always trying new stuff. So I'm gonna cut these out, and I'm gonna put those in, and I'm gonna see if this is a more comfortable racket afterwards. So keep in mind too that when you're doing this, how long has it been since you've strung this racket? How much tension do you think has been lost overall? Because that should affect the way that you're going to string the crosses. And since I know the Ytex Quadro Twist, I know it to be kind of a really elastic string, but it does hold tension well. But as you're stringing it up, it does seem to stretch a lot. So that being said, and this having been strung at about 57 pounds a few days ago, and I've hit with it a couple times, but it's really stiff. I don't know what I'm gonna do exactly. I might also string it at 57. I'm not totally sure, but I'm not tripping about it too much. I'm just gonna have to do this and sort of hope for the best, but I am entirely confident that this is gonna go perfectly fine. And I'm really just hopeful that it actually makes this string bed more comfortable. But for now, I don't really trust this string bed to not cause me wrist issues, so I'm gonna cut out the crosses and hopefully get more comfort with a different hybrid setup. Hey, so I finished the string job, or the racket surgery, I should say. So cut out the crosses successfully, and we put Ytex Quadro Twist in the crosses. This guy right here, I got a reel of it. It's a 16 light, right? I think that's a 16 light. It's the only gauge that they make this in, so that comes out to 1.26 millimeters for these guys. Sometimes the millimeter matters more because the gauge is a little bit more vague of a measurement than the millimeter measurement. Looks pretty cool. And I'll show you guys that the job was done successfully with tape measure here. So I'm going to hold this tape measure right at the tip. I'm going to hold it in place right there, and you will see that it is exactly 27.5. Oh, gonna get carpal tunnel trying to prove this to you guys. It's hard on the selfie cam. Wait, maybe I can do this. Yeah, there you go. Right, you reading that upside down now? 27.5. And I'm just holding it like right there on the tip. So yeah, the racket length was not changed in any way, and this is a job that I think went perfectly. So I will hit with this later and let you guys know what I think. I hope it's a more comfortable string bed now. I mean, it must be a little bit more comfortable and hopefully enough to not be causing me wrist issues. So we'll see. I guess I'll just have to hit with it and let you guys know. But that's how you do it, and I just wanted to do it to let you guys know that you can do something like this and have perfectly okay results without harming the racket. But it does require a little bit of experience and knowledge, and if you have the right equipment, that would be ideal. So again, not necessarily recommending that you do this, but if you so choose to, for whatever reason, it can be done. That's all I wanted to really get across in this video. So thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us out so much, because the larger this channel is, the more opportunity it gives me, the more other brands might want to give me some things that I can review, and no matter what, I will always be honest in my reviews. And that's just something some of the companies are going to have to be, well, they're going to have to be down for that. If you're really confident in your product and you think I'm going to like it, then send it to me, and I'm sure that I'll have good things to say about it. But if I don't, well, then you're giving me a product to, you know, review honestly either way. So if you're really confident in your product, send it to me, and I'll consider doing a review. So without further ado, I will leave it at that. See you guys in a future video. This is Time for Tennis. Thank you again for watching, and see you in the next one. Bye.